So, Shannon, this isn't anyone's favorite thing to do, but it's part of a first year's job. Any questions?
Nope, pretty simple.
I'd like to welcome my very own Dr. Shannon Rivera to the night shift.
Jordan, nasty two-car accident out on Route 16. TC and Topher just went out in the chopper.
Okay, let's go.
The night shift at a busy trauma center like this is the Wild West.
Clear?
And we are the calm in the eye of the storm. We make it all okay for everyone.
Her neck is hanging by a thread.
We're gonna have to intubate as soon as we get her down. Get that backboard ready!
Your tour is extended another 3 months.
I'm sorry, I won't be able to be there for your birthday.
Let's go!
Everybody spread out!
Right, guys!
We found him. We found the boy.
Frankie, you were in an accident, but you're okay now.
What are you doing to my wife?
You can't just walk in here. You gotta get out.
She is my patient. Get out of my ER.
Don't let them pick me.
I just don't want it to be awkward for us working together.
She lost a child. She lost you. Give it some time.
You want to be taken seriously. Present with authority. You are a surgeon. Got some loops on the hemostat. TC, hold pressure that side. I got this.
We have to follow Afghan laws.
Give her to me.
Take care of my Bobby, please. He's lost his pulse. Let's start CPR. Welcome back, Poppy.
Thank you.
Poppy.
Thank you, and thank you for being here.
My
the
pleasure.
supremely
This is
talented
fun.
Jennifer Beals. That's a pretty apt description.
Oh, very sweet. I think this is a very caffeinated crowd.
Or they're just excited to see you.
Could be.
By the way, if Dr. Sid Jennings told me to get out of her ER, I would flee without even looking back.
Yes, and well, you should. She's a toughie.
How did you get this role?
Well, Gabe Sachs and Jeff Judah, who are the showrunners, approached me, and they had a notion of a character that they wanted to portray, and they told me some of the things that they were thinking about doing, and I was really excited about it because I had, years before that, developed a show at HBO about a female soldier and her coming home story. So it was a topic that I was familiar with and was really interested in portraying.
And so you read the script.
Well, they didn't have a script.
Oh, they didn't have a script. Aha.
No, I had to go on faith. And it was a very good meeting. They're really, really nice and very smart. And Jeff is from Chicago, so that helped. And I just, jumped on board.
So do we see Sid coming home later on in the show and see her? I mean, her relationship with her daughter is so heart-wrenching to watch because
yeah,
it's
it's great.
conducted entirely over FaceTime.
I know. Yeah, you do get to see her come home.
How much research did you do into the role?
Well, I had researched for the other project that I had been working on, so I had done some research prior to that, but in terms of being in Afghanistan, and they had wanted me to be able to be facile with Pashto, so I had learned a bit of Pashto for the part, which was really fun, and I sat down with some Afghani students and talk to them about what their views were about the United States and try to get a sense of Afghanistan through their eyes. And they predominantly spoke Dari, and so I learned about all the different languages that are spoken in Afghanistan, but for Sid's purposes, Pashto was really important.
So how long did it take you to become, I don't want to say fluent, but...
Oh gosh, I'm not fluent. I can say about 3 sentences.
Comfortable with Pashto.
Well, I was comfortable with my 3 sentences. After a short period of time, I had a really great teacher, and I'm hoping that Duolingo will develop a Pashto app, part of their program, or at least Dari or Farsi. That would be fun to learn.
What's been the most challenging part for you of playing her?
Kind of walking that line or figuring out when those transitions come between adjusting to being in a completely masculine world, which is being in the military, and then transitioning back to being a mother, and especially coming home is very hard coming home is very, very hard. But even, I think in the clip you saw where she's, FaceTiming or Skyping with her daughter, she's still being very nurturing and very feminine in a stereotypical way, I guess, with her daughter. And then when, the crap hits the fan, she's got to transition very quickly to this other side of herself, which is very, very good at what, she's very good at what she does. And I think the more chaotic her surroundings are, the clearer her thinking becomes. She's very, very good in a crisis.
How good are you in a crisis?
I'm pretty good in a crisis, actually. I guess it depends on the crisis. I think things start to slow down for me, and I can see things a little bit more clearly. It's like everything's going in slow motion, but I guess some crises I'm not so great at, but I can see pretty clearly, but not like her. Like I couldn't perform surgery in a crisis. That would be tricky.
I mean, she's performing surgery with this woman's husband barging in.
Yes.
Well, I guess we shouldn't give that away, right?
Yeah. And there's another scene where what was interesting is that her patient is in crisis. There's a potentially violent situation in the OR, and she instinctively puts her body in between her patient and the perpetrator of violence, which means that she could get injured, but in her mind at that moment, she's so trained to save her patient that she protects them instead of herself.
How much of your HBO show preparation transitioned into this role?
A lot, actually, a lot. I mean, there were key differences because the character with the HBO project also suffered military sexual trauma, and that's not the case with Sid, at least as far as I know right now. So that's a really key difference. But, coming home and making that transition, I think all of us on the project, Oren Moverman, Lauren Schuler-Donner, Tony Swafford, we all thought about that a lot. Like, what is that transition like? And we need to see more of it in mainstream media.
Absolutely. We actually had Soledad O'Brien here recently, and she was talking about the same thing, how that's not really covered in mainstream media.
No, because I think also the female soldiers coming home story is substantially different because so many female soldiers are not even recognized as veterans. That somehow their contribution isn't as meaningful as the men. And as a result, a lot of them don't consider themselves as veterans, and they can't find their community, and so therefore they don't reach out when they need help, and they have to understand that they do have a community. And certainly we have to push for more benefits, in the VA system, but there is a community there.
Now, when you sign on to do a show like this where there is no script and you go on faith, how much of the responsibility falls to you to come up with her backstory and her motivation and why she's in Afghanistan in the first place?
Well, they did that, yeah. We talked about that. I mean, we talked about it, but they had come up with a lot of things before, when I first met them. And it was striking how similar some of the things that they had thought of were what we had thought of when we were developing the project.
How much work do you put into any character that you play in terms of coming up with an outline of their life and what their history is for you?
Oh, I love doing that. I think it's really fun. I think it informs how you approach different situations. I mean, I don't write a novel about it, but I am very clear about who I am, and I think understanding whether you have faith or not, especially for this character or people in this situation, was important. And yeah, I really love it. And it's funny, the different ways you get into a character, because I remember I did this show called Mob Doctor, and it was so far away from me. But it wasn't until I got on these long fake nails that I could blast her, I was like, oh, dang, nobody's gonna mess with me now.
Oh my God, I love you.
Yeah.
What was the turning point for you with Dr. Jennings? Was it getting the fatigues on?
Oh, as soon as I get the fatigues on, yeah. And I go deeper into a Chicago voice, and it gets this other thing, like, step away.
Okay, I got to ask you about Roger Dodger. When you played her, what was the thing for you that got you into character?
Gosh, I don't know if I can remember that far back, honestly. It's probably wardrobe again. You know, wardrobe is always the first stop, you know, where you're trying to figure out who this person is. That's usually the first place you go before hair and makeup. You're working on wardrobe. And that was a really wonderful situation where Campbell Scott had reached out to me to play this part, and it was really great getting to work with him, and I, you know, introduced him and Dylan Kidd to my friend Elizabeth Berkley, and she ended up playing, you know, part in the film, and it was a great experience.
At this point in your career, how much do personal relationships dictate what projects you take on?
Oh, well, there's, you know, Campbell could ask me to stand on my head and recite the dictionary, and I would do it for him. I'd do anything for him. And recently on Taken, I'm doing a show on NBC called Taken, and my friend Alex Graves directed the pilot, and he's an executive producer, and I would do anything for him, for sure.
So,
yeah, there are people that I love working with, and I love being in a relationship to, and they excite me and invigorate me and keep me curious.
And the reason I ask is because just looking at your list of credits, you seem very particular about what you choose to do.
In some way. I mean, I get offered the things I think in a weird way that the universe wants me to do. It's very interesting. It's really interesting.
At what point do you know that you want to do something? Is it by page 10? Is
well,
it after
if I'm
reading?
scared, that's a really good indicator.
Yeah.
It's an expansive feeling that kind of happens. Like I don't know if I can describe it.
Of your most recent roles, which one scared you the most?
Oh, Taken. Yeah. Christina Hart in Taken is kind of terrifying. Yeah. Yeah, she's extraordinary. Yeah. I mean, I think she's the most intense of everybody, of all of them. When I saw the pilot, I was scared of myself. I scared myself. You know, she's an incredible strategist, and she will do whatever it takes to keep as many people in the United States safe as she has to.
So you were scared, mission accomplished.
Yeah.
And by the way, folks, I'm sure that you remember that this lady here was in the LWord, which was one of the most groundbreaking shows, I think, in recent history. How do you look back on that time, and can you believe how much things have changed?
It's extraordinary to see how much things have changed, and it's also disheartening to see how far we have to go, and it feels like there's a backlash happening right now, and I've always said that homophobia is a form of misogyny, and I feel like there's this backlash against the feminine, and I'm here to stand to fight. That's what I am. But it was a really, really great experience, the LWord. I mean, I was introduced to a whole community of activists that I knew nothing about, and it was exciting to be with people who would stand up and defend their rights and really work at making the invisible visible.
And in such a classy and smart way.
Well, thank you, Eileen Chaikin. Yeah.
What did you learn about yourself from that role?
I think I probably started to learn how tough I can be, and that I actually appreciate a good cufflink, you know?
I do want to ask you, I read about your attitude towards auditions, which I think is genius, because you get so many actors who complain about it and say how tough they are and how brutal and how demoralizing, and your attitude is, I'm so lucky to even be able to do this.
Well, I feel like, okay, if I have to go audition, it's not something that I'm jumping up and down about, but if I have to go, then I try to remind myself, oh, look, you get to go act this afternoon. You get to go explore this afternoon. So go towards it with that attitude rather than complaining about it, yeah.
Of all the roles you've played, which one do you think has stuck with you the most?
Proof.
That was a tough one.
It just was really, really special. I mean, I loved, I love the LWord, and I'm really, really enjoying the night shift. And I'm sure Taken's going to be an extraordinary ride. And I think that probably will be the one a year from now. But Proof was really special. We had a really incredible group of people, and we're telling incredible stories, and I loved that. I love that experience.
Thus far in this show, what have you taken away from it?
Other than my love of Pashto. I don't know that I can answer it yet because I'm still in the middle of it. Yeah, I still have episodes to go.
And what can you say about Dr. Jennings's arc and what's ahead for her? I assume coming home from what you said.
Yes, I think it's the most interesting transition is that being in the midst of chaos and being so powerful and in control, and then having to come home and transition to this other role at home and trying to figure out what that is, you know.
I think how did you approach playing that? Because I'm trying to think if I've seen a woman play that, and am I wrong that?
I don't know if
that has really
I don't watch TV enough, so I don't know, but I don't know that you've seen it so much in a TV show, as far as I know. But at least as of yet, they haven't painted her as extremely damaged or anything like that. She's just really trying to figure out, okay, how am I a mother now? Like and what kind of mother am I? And how do I go to the PTA meetings? Like, how do I fit back in? And what are the judgments of other people against me that I've decided to go serve my country and not be at home with my daughter? And having them accept that I go do it to serve as an example to her and to help my country and to help all those soldiers out there who are damaged and who need my help. So it's interesting to look at that because I think we have a double standard. Certainly if a man comes home, a male soldier comes home, we don't hold it against him that he left his family. We understand he's performing his duty and he's helping us all. And I think we've got to be able to switch our perspective with women as well. But I think it's still really hard, and I think Sid definitely beats herself up about that.
When you came up with a backstory for her, why do you think she chose to go to Afghanistan?
Well, I think you go where you're the most needed, and you try to be...
Especially as a doctor.
Yes, as a doctor, you go where you're most needed.
And for you, how hard was it to learn all the medical maneuverings? Because it's one thing to act, it's another thing to act while speaking a foreign language, and it's a third thing to act while speaking a foreign language and believably operating on people in an operating room.
Right. Well, luckily I had a little bit of experience on Proof, and then on the night shift we have a really great medical consultant. And so I got to go to doctor school for a day.
Ooh, what's that like?
That's really, really fun. And you learn all kinds of things. And I just wanted to have more medical school. I thought, oh, God, I get medical school every day. This is going to be really fun. And he's like, no, it's just one time. And I was like, well, can we do it maybe for a week? Like, try that out, secretly wanting to go to med school. But he just didn't have enough slides prepared, so we didn't really do that.
Wait, so you walk in and are they like, hey, Jennifer, here's a scalpel, here's I'm trying to come up with some other medical terms, but...
Right, a chest spreader.
Yeah. But do they...
Well, they walk you through it. Well, first you get the overall, in case somebody skipped the biology classes at school. And then when you're on set, you have your own, it's like a separate rehearsal, really. And you go over all the things that you need to do and... why you do them, if you want to know why you do them. And it's really, really, really fun.
So now can you actually provide medical advice in real life?
Well, you know what I want to do, and feel free to steal this idea, but I want to redesign the chest spreader because it's archaic. I don't know if anybody does surgery, but yeah, it spreads open the chest, and there's this sort of handle on it, but it's not a real handle, and it's very unwieldy. And so I designed this new handle for the chest spreader, and I want to get a patent for it, and I want a new chest spreader.
I am honestly very rarely speechless. I am speechless. That's amazing.
It would be fun, right?
Like, just on set, you just randomly, in like your downtime, designed it?
Yeah, well, I designed this other thing, which I'll tell you about later, but I just got a patent for it based on my experience on proof to make the stress echo test better for women.
Oh my God, you're a genius.
No, I'm just really irritated. You know? Like, I want to solve the problem. Like, I think I got it from my mom. It's like, you get irritated and you're like, okay, how do you make this better? Like, we're not just going to accept this. Don't just complain about it. Make it better.
And before we turn it over to the audience, I want to ask you one final question. Looking back on your career, and damn, you have done some fine work, what role do you think continues to define you the most?
Me as a human, or me as an actor? Or
both.
What do you mean?
Well, I think
Gosh,
proof
I have
we
no
already said
idea.
defines you most.
Well, I don't know if it defines me as a person. I don't know what defines me as a person, what role. And I don't know that I'm the best to judge what defines me as an actor. I think it'll be a conglomeration in the future after I pass somehow. I don't.
We won't talk about that, but then you will have.
Well, that's
invented
okay.
Like
Passing's
50,
not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
You will have invented like 50 medical gadgets by then.
Well, hopefully. Yeah.
And now it's time for our audience.
Hey, Jennifer. Thanks for coming. I know it's been 33 years since Flashdance, so my question to you is, what have you learned from that film that carried on with you as an actress?
Oh, from Flashdance?
Yeah.
Patience. Patience. It's a lot of waiting. I remember being a girl, and I had a little teeny tiny trailer, and just having to be really patient while they set the lights, and knowing how to pace yourself. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here, Jennifer. My question...
there you, I thought, oh my God, I'm so blind. I can't even see who's talking. You're right in front of me.
It's okay, I can't even talk. One thing that I'm really impressed about is your versatility in your career of all the different roles you've done. One of them was The Anniversary Party.
Oh, I love that movie.
Where you played a photographer.
Wasn't that a great?
That was a
great movie.
Alan Cumming. It was just such a fantastic cast, and I just loved your role because we'd see these portraits, these beautiful black and white photographs. When are we going to see Jennifer Beals' art exhibit?
Wow, gosh, pressure's totally on now. Because I was talking to Gabe Sachs, who's one of the showrunners on The Night Shift, who's a phenomenal photographer, and he's trying to get me to bring my cameras to set. And I shoot film, so it's really interesting in this day and age to be shooting film. Gosh, one more thing to add to my list. Thanks. I don't know, but it would be fun. I did when the anniversary party came out at the party, Jennifer Jason Leigh, who's one of the writers and directors of the film, who's also in the film, she wanted to decorate the party with the portraits I had taken. And so this really great lab in LA made these huge prints of the pictures, and it was really fun to see them everywhere. And that would be really hard to curate. I have to figure that out. I did do a book after I did the LWord, and I had taken pictures from the first rehearsal to the last day of shooting, and I did interviews of the cast, because it was such a meaningful experience for all of us, and I wanted us to have this remembrancer, I guess. And I initially made it just for the cast and the crew, and then I went to this LWord convention. Kate Mennick and Leisha Haley were like, you gotta go to the LWord convention, it's wild. And I said, okay, I'll give it a try. And first of all, it is wild and it's amazing. You can't believe there's like 1,000 women who, are so dedicated to the show. But I auctioned off a portrait. I think it was a portrait of somebody. I can't remember. But in any case, I gave the money to charity And people were really interested in having it. And I thought, oh, well, maybe I'll make the book available to the fans. And so the majority of the proceeds of the book go to charity. So that's available online. It's LWordbook.com. But as to a show, I'll have to figure that out. Thanks for the encouragement.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi.
So you've mentioned a lot about the difficulty transitioning, you know, for female vets especially transitioning back. What would you like to see that in terms of how we can actually help that transition? So I have worked in a VA, and I'm totally with you. I think I for one think we need mental health reform and integrating physical and mental health a little bit more. But what else would you like to see that could help? Aside from MGIA?
I would say, you know, gee, maybe you could have more gynecologists at the hospital. You know, you could have a safe space for women, or even acknowledge women's health would be great. And I'm not sure how you further create community, but I think women have to feel safe going into the spaces where they are seeking help. And I don't know that they do. So why would you go in there in the first place? And I think it creates more isolation, and then you know, certainly more mental and social challenges.
And we have time for one last question, please.
Hey, Jennifer, so cool hearing you speak. You mentioned a little about your character's backstory. Have you noticed an improvement in character development for females since the beginning of your career?
Well, I think since I've gotten older, I've gotten more interesting characters. And I don't know if that's because I've gotten older or because the time has changed. I don't know. But I feel really lucky. And it's fun to get older on film. Yeah.
And when can we see the show?
The Night Shift premieres tonight.
Oh, on NBC.
Thank you.